Hey there, welcome to my podcast, Kevin Elworth Unplugged. It's a pleasure to have you with me today. We talk about life, leadership, and all the things in between, and today is going to be no different. Today I want to drill down into the purpose of, or the idea of desire. But before we get to that spot, I want to tell you what's going on in my world. Right now, I am at the International Maxwell Conference. They do this conference twice a year in March and in August. And man, this actually represents an entire year for me. It was 1 year ago that I had left my position in my pastorate role, and 2 weeks after that, I flew to Orlando to come to this conference and gain my certification while I was here. I actually got my very first coaching client while I was at this conference, and I remember that day I got a text message from this guy that I had met with just previous to that, and he was like, "Hey, I think I need to hire you," and I was just dumbfounded. I'm like, man, here we go. Like, this is working. And I was so excited and just so motivated. And now a year has gone by and a lot of water has gone under the bridge. And I see some great movement that has happened, and I'm inspired. Um, and I want that for you too. I want to inspire you today to continue to grow. I came back to this conference because I need to continue to grow. There's continual growth that needs to happen in my heart so that I can help other people grow. And honestly, the same thing is true for you. No matter where you're at, no matter what you are doing, what you're up against, like, your level of growth will indicate the success at which that you experience and see the movement and the blessing of your life. So continue to grow, whatever that needs to look like and whatever that needs to become. Find a way to grow. Today, I want to sow some goodness into you. And I really believe that the premise that I'm going to give you today, I'm still struggling to try to figure out the implications of this myself. But I guarantee, I don't know how I can back up a guarantee like this, but the guarantee that is found on the other side of this is that if you will do the work, if you will do the investigation that comes through what I'm about to present you today, it will lead to the person that you need to become. It will lead to the profitability that you want to have. It will answer so many begging questions that you have in your life for who you want to become and where you want to go. And it's just found in a simple biblical truth. I'm going to go back to my roots for this. I'm going to preach at you a little bit today, but I want to talk about the intensity of desire. It is literally the first thing that needs to take place in the development of who you want to become. It really swirls down to, who did God create you to be? What is that innate desire that's in you? There's this dual tension, a dual component that happens in this. There's the plan of God, as you find in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and to bless you, and whatever else that verse says. But so there's a plan of God, a component of God's plan that needs to be integrated into this. And then there's also the idea of desire that needs to be in play also. And that's where I want to start with this today. So let me read you two verses that I have been utilizing in my coaching process and pattern that have just become catalyst in helping people discover and advance on who they want to become. So here they are. The first one is Psalm 37:3-4. Psalm 37:3-4, long been my absolute favorite verses in Psalm. Also in Psalm 37, you find 37:25 that says, I have been young and now I am old, and yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging bread. And I love that verse. I can't tell you how many times that verse has gotten me out of a position where I literally have been thinking that, oh, we're done. This is it. We're done here. And yet that verse gets me out of it. Go back to the beginning of that, Psalm 37:3-4. David had this to say: trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. And then this line: delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. Now, that verse is just mind-boggling to me. It answers so many questions of who you want to become and of what you want to do. I think the difference is that we've actually never allowed ourselves to sink down into, okay, who do I want to become? And what really is the thing I desire? And what are the implications of that? What are the restrictions for it how far can I take this, right? Now, I feel like this needs to be met with another special component, and I find that in Joshua 1, 6, and 7. Now, the book of Joshua, and forgive me if you've listened to this before, I think that you have. I've mentioned this quite a bit. Joshua 1, 6, and 7. This is a position of transition. God is transitioning the people from one leader to another leader. This isn't a king. This isn't an authority figure. This is a leadership trait. And so Moses had already established influence with Joshua, and he has then connected that influence to the people of Israel. Hey, when I'm dead and gone, Joshua is to be the next amazing leader. Now, there's a huge caveat in play here that I'm not going to get into today, but it is the component that you see this element of leadership development from Moses to Joshua, but you never see that leadership development component from Joshua to someone else. And you sequentially see the catastrophic nature of what took place after that, if you know your Bible. Anyway, we're getting in the weeds here, and I don't want to get in the weeds. I want to read you this verse. Joshua 1, 6, and 7, God says to Joshua, be strong and very courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. And then this commendation. Again, only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to the law that Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not, this is the imperative, the command, do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. Now, here's the thing. I believe that same component is available to you. The same component that guarantees Joshua's success in his endeavor, and the thing that God said, this is my plan. I believe that this is available to you and I also, but it hinges on one premise: clarity of desire. And the longer that you wait to get clear about who you want to become and what you want to get out of life, the longer you will fail, and you will feel like you are flailing in life as you go through this, because you're feeling like, am I ever going to get this? Is this ever going to become what I want it to become? It'll feel like you're spinning your tires and there's no traction and all those things. It comes down to the intensity of desire. And so I want to give you the freedom today to begin to ask, some specific and some crystal clear things about what you want in life. Other places in scripture, this verse is found: you have not because you did not ask. You have not because you ask not. You've probably heard that one before. Here's the thing. We don't ask because we don't know. I really think it comes down to that. If you and I could sit down with a nice, good, strong cup of coffee today, and I feel like I need one. I have been up since 1 a.m. and it is right now, it's 1 p.m. I feel like I have done a full day already, obviously, and it's time to go back to bed. I might catch a nap before I get into some other stuff this afternoon. But if you and I had the opportunity to sit down across a nice Italian espresso and talk about your desire, could you tell me what it was? Could you tell me just for a minute in a simple sentence, this is what I want out of life? When I get to my deathbed, when I look back over my history, however long that is, 150, 160 years, this is what I've accomplished. Could you define that? Because honestly, I don't feel like we can. There's very few people who cross the face of this earth that can actually define, yep, I did what I said I would do. I accomplished what I set out to accomplish. One of the biggest problems that we have in life is the fact that we can never make it off of survival mode. And the reason we can't is because we don't know what we want. If we would actually sink down into who I want to become and what I want to do and not break from that, we would begin to find movement in the direction of desire. Everything begins with desire. Everything does. What do you want to experience and receive throughout your life? Now, listen, here's the thing. If lifetime is too long for you, because it probably is, don't make it lifetime. just make it the next destination. In the next 5 years, I want to have accomplished this, or I want to be doing this, or I want to be earning this, or I want to be living here, or I want to whatever. We just don't, we end up just kind of reacting our way through life instead of purposefully and intentionally moving from one thing to the other. I tell my wife and I have this idea all the time that we want life to chase us rather than us chase life. I want to feel like I am very much in control of where I want to go and what I want to do and what I want to accomplish. And I want to feel like, life is trying to be like, hey, slow down. Like I can't grab a hold of you. I don't want life to grab a hold of me. I want to be able to cut the edge on this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm after. I think so often in life we wait for resources to come into us before we make decisions based on what we're going to do. And you have it exactly backwards. And that is why there will forever be things in your that you will that will be left unanswered in your life because you're waiting for resources. You should never wait for resources. You should always press into the unknown. And the amazing thing is that the resources will catch up with you. For me right now, I think I've maybe have told you some of this, but it has been a long desire of mine to be able to get back into Latin American ministry, Latin American movement. And yesterday I had a conversation with a mission organization and a ministry in Costa Rica. And I'm going to get to go back to Costa Rica this summer. My son is going to come as well. And this is going to become a viable, continued opportunity for me. And I have made the next promise I've made is, hey, my family is going to do this next year. In 2025, my entire family will be going on a mission trip to Costa Rica. I have no idea how I'm going to make that possible. That's at least a $10,000 trip. I have no concept of how I'm going to do that. I just know that, okay, I'm going to walk in that direction. Why? Because that is my desire. It's what I want. And this is where I want you to start thinking about this, because I think we think in terms of, we don't know what's available to us. And when the psalmist said, David said, delight yourself in the Lord. Let me go back to that verse. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That's really just that component. Well, I desire that I get to do ministry work in Latin America, specifically Costa Rica or Guatemala, maybe Mexico. That is crystal clear to me. And then the next component that's crystal clear is that my family gets to do it with me, all of them. Now, is it going to be this year? No. But so that's why we created the caveat. Next year, I want to make this happen. And so we're going to pursue it. We're going to start walking in that direction, but I can only walk in the direction of what I've created as desire. So what do you want? What would it look like to you? I mean, it comes down to the issue of contentment and potential. The Bible does say, be content with such things as you have, but what is the potential? Because if you're minimizing your potential, then you're never going to be satisfied. If your potential is not maximized where you are and what you're doing, that's really your own fault. It's because you didn't press into something more and greater. And what's the ideal element for you to be in and to be a part of and to, have experience with? That is this thing. How is it that you decide what you want? I think it really can come down to just dreaming. My wife does this, and she does it with such brilliant color. I absolutely love when she just starts dreaming up in such specificity and vibrancy, and she can just paint a beautiful picture. It's partly because she's a designer at heart, and so she just dreams up in just these vivid details. I really struggle with these kind of things, and that's why I kind of need her. And I tend to get a little bit pigeonholed in the process. Honestly, let me get vulnerable with you for a minute, but one of the ways that we do this is that we start desiring things, or we create things to resolve our fears. And so we try to put distance between us and fear. And so, I want this because that'll put me as far away from fear as I could possibly be at that moment. But we underestimate the power and the potency of fear itself. And so it shouldn't be that we're just trying to put distance from fear. It's that we should really want to be pursuing something great in our lives. Let me give you another example. One of the things that I really, really want, a desire, is that my kids have kind of two things. that they have a great personal experience with faith, and that they also know how to be ingenuity and create their own element of finance. I think faith and finances go pretty hand in hand, and I think there is a nature of both that comes into play. Now I'm watching my son Austin, who is just blowing my mind right now when it comes to business development. He is putting together a very viable business for himself, and he's got this element of faith that just comes into it, and he is just kind of cut on the cutting edge when it comes to like ideas and development and movement and creativity and ingenuity and determination. He's not giving up. He's resilient. It's amazing to me. It is inspiring, and so that's something that I want. Um, what will you give yourself permission to do and to experience? And I think really it just comes down to that. What would you give yourself experience to do, or the permission to do? The book I'm writing right now, and I'm struggling. I'm stuck on titles. I'm brainstorming while I'm here in Orlando. I'm going to be brainstorming some titles for my book. But it literally is all about I can. And it comes, the premise, the theme of the book is really I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That was such a profound note to me as I left my career and walked into like the adventure of the unknown. And I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. The other side of that is that we need someone to give us permission. You can do this. Like, you've got what it takes. You have it. It will come. It will be tough, but it will come. I can do this. And so I would just give you permission today. What do you dream up? What do you envision? What do you want for your life? And what do you want for your story? Let's get the permission to do the experience, whatever it may be. Another question that I would kind of put before you is, what limitations are you placing on or over your life that is restraining you currently? Excuse me. What are those limitations? Because honestly, they're self-imposed. Because if the reality is that if we can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, then the limitations of our lives are simply things that we've placed over ourselves. They're probably not real. They're just there because we put them there. Why did we put them there? Who knows why we put them there, but they're there. Well, one of the things that I would really encourage you to do is just prayerfully lift those off of your life and just say, hey, God, this is what I'm going after. This is what I'm envisioning. This is what I'm, pursuing. And I want to ask you to help me press into the freedom of what that needs to be and what that needs to become. Now, let me just take a pause right here before we kind of end this podcast and just kind of give you some commercial content. My business, Kevin Elworth Coaching, exists to help you level up your leadership. I'm doing that with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways right now. And one of my favorite ways to do that is just individually. I love sitting across a computer screen with someone who's just trying to figure out, what do I do and what's possible for me? And what are the implications of what's around me? I just absolutely love it when you get this light bulb moment in somebody's mind, and they're just like, I see it. I know what to do. I know what to go after. It's not impossible for me. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be expensive. But these breakthrough moments that just bust the lid on the thing that is holding you back they're my drug. It's like an infection for me that I'm like, I can't get enough of this. It's so like enjoyable and fulfilling for me to watch you press into the adventure of what God has in and for you, whether it's in life personally or with your company. There is a pathway that takes you deeper and more profoundly to the place of your greatest ability. Companies and organizations are hiring me right now to walk them towards succession, as well as day-to-day implications of leadership development. If you're stuck and you need traction, it's time to engage in a coaching conversation. In the show notes below, you're going to find a link to set up a discovery call, and I will look forward to personally getting connected to you and to help you discover where you need to grow next. I guarantee you, with every coaching conversation that I had, every discovery call that I have been on, it is just so filling to be able for you to get the information that gets you unstuck and actually helps you see the power and the potential that's inside of you to grow beyond where you're at. Let me give you one of the takeaways that I had from the Maxwell conference that I was at last year. It was one of their opening sessions. And I can't exactly remember the nature of what was being said, but it was the first time that I ever heard John Maxwell speak in person, live and in person. I've been familiar with John Maxwell for years, probably 25 years ago. My One of my great friends and mentors, youth pastor, gave me one of John Maxwell's books, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and it really changed my life. So much so that after that, I was like, my gosh, this guy is the benchmark for leadership. And so naturally, when it came time for me to transition from one thing to another, I was like, oh, hands down, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going after. That's what I love. That's what I want to be a part of. That's what I want to sow into other people's lives and processes and mentalities. And so sitting and listening to John Maxwell last year say these words, success is found on the other side of yes. And I heard him say that. And then I heard him say it again, and like 3 or 4 times, he's drilling this concept into people. And I'm just mind blown. Because I'm like, in that moment, my life changed. In that one statement, my life changed. And over the next 3 days, I would just have interaction and interaction over and over and over again. That just changed me and on repeat. And I remember sitting at one of the last sessions of this conference I was at, and we were supposed to kind of go around this table. We were at these, circle tables with just 8 people there. And we were supposed to discuss our like takeaway note that we were taking with us. And I remember sitting there for a minute and I wrote down on this piece of paper that I was like, I have the power to believe in my own potential. And I got really emotional over that. I was really in a very sensitive state at that time. And I remember articulating that to the people at the table. And this person was like, wow, that is huge. Like the power to believe in your own potential. I felt like all these chains had just been thrown off of me. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's been an uphill climb. It has been so hard. This last year has probably been the toughest year of my life. But I have seen so much positive movement and dynamic direction. No way did I actually think that, I'd meet all these amazing coaching clients and businesses that have invited me in, and companies that that have invested in me to help them change. And just last week, I was with one of my top 10 companies that I put on my whiteboard months ago and said, I want to work with them, or I want them to hire me. And I got to do that last week. And it's just been mind blowing to watch the movement, all because I decided with the thing that started it was this is what I want. This is what I want to experience. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to earn. This is what I want to go after. This is who I want to become. And almost every time that is threatened, I wrestle with it for a little while. It takes me a few minutes. And I almost always come back to the core of that. This is what I want to do. It comes down to one specific statement that I created about myself years ago. I want to help people experience an amazing God in an unbelievable way. And I want to challenge and encourage you in that journey also. There is something innate, adventurous, and amazing that God has for you. And you may not even know it. You may not even have asked the question that unlocks the desire to come out of you and say, okay, now it's time. Now it's time to unleash this thing and see how far we can go with it. One last thing I want to invite you into today. I'm releasing a book. I've already mentioned I'm wrestling through the book title, but I'm assembling a launch team right now, and I want you to consider being a part of it. There'd be a couple ways that you can do this. I'm going to be launching just a Facebook group for this in a couple of weeks, and I would love to have you a part of that. I'm also assembling a whole team of people to just be a part of this, and it would require some obligation from you. There's some requirements on the side of it, but it will invest in you. It will develop you. It will help you begin to see the power and potential of your life. I promise to you that I will give you a name of this book soon. It will be there, and it will be just developmental and life-changing for you. That's what I seek to do. All right, that's it. I'm out of time. I got some other things I got to do. Thanks for being with me today. I just love this. Don't hesitate to let me know how I can help, inspire, and encourage you. Pray you have a great day. We'll talk soon.